They said I spoke too boldly, that I moved too fast, that I was dangerous. They were right. I told African leaders to stop begging. I told the West to keep its blood money. I told my people they were already free, if only they stopped kneeling. And for that, they have marked me for death. But I am not afraid of death when I'm already living for something larger than myself. That is the first truth no one tells you. The second, that the world will not applaud you for standing tall. It will try to kneel you down. It will try to silence you. It will call your clarity madness. And in the end, it might just kill you for it. But still, you speak. Let the record show. I did not come into this world to steal, to scheme, or to sell my people's dignity for applause from those who once branded us with chains. I stood here in the dust and defiance of Burkina Faso, not as a general, but as a son of Africa, a brother to the barefoot child with a rusted tin cup, a comrade to the woman bent double under firewood while men in suits toast champagne over her sweat. I stood here to say, we have waited long enough. Now we rise. They called it Burkina Faso, the land of upright people, not just because we needed a new name, but because we were becoming something new, something proud, something terrifying, perhaps, to those who fed for centuries on our obedience. And yes, they feared me, not for my rifles, but for my refusal to be bought. You must understand, I was not born into revolution. I was born into silence, into the tight-lipped obedience of a post-colonial wound that still bled behind school walls and military salutes. But I saw too much. A child sees more than you think. I saw mothers skip meals so their children could eat. I saw educated men carry French briefcases but bow to foreign minds. I saw the people grow thin while the ministers grew fat. And I said, no, not anymore. So we cut the salaries of the government and raised the voice of the people. We banned luxury cars for officials and rolled in on bicycles and battered R4s. We planted trees where corruption had stripped the earth bare. We built railways with our own hands because no one else would. We fed ourselves with food we grew, not with loans that choked us. We said no to aid that came with a leash, no to IMF demands that treated us like we were numbers, not people, and they called it dangerous. But I asked, dangerous to whom? To the banker in Paris who could no longer squeeze interest from our hunger? To the arms dealer who could no longer fuel tribal wars in exchange for diamonds? To the puppet masters who preferred Africa silent, broken, and forever in debt? Then let it be dangerous. I am not here to please them. I am here to awaken us. And awaken we did. The women stood taller, no longer side characters in their own story. The youth began to dream, not of fleeing, but of building, of staying, of changing, of fighting, not for power, but for purpose. The soldiers cleaned streets alongside civilians. Ministers farmed one day a week. We began to believe that maybe, just maybe, this thing we'd been taught to fear, this African pride, was not a curse, but a cure. But pride is not passive. It threatens those who traffic in shame. And so, the whispers began. The West grew nervous. Their smiles turned thin. Letters arrived, threats dressed as diplomacy, offers wrapped in deceit. Old comrades began to lean away, unsure whether my fire would consume them too. They said I was too bold, too fast, too stubborn. They said I made enemies. And to that I say, yes, I made enemies. But never of my people, only of those who wished to keep my people asleep. The day I said no to debt repayment, they marked me. I remember that speech. It rang out like a drum beat across the continent. I said, we cannot pay, and I meant it, Not because we are lazy, not because we are dishonest, but because we never asked for these chains, and we will not continue to polish them. We were told our liberation would come slowly, that we should wait, be patient, that we were not ready. But ready for what? More starvation? More foreign hands in our pockets? I looked around and saw a people who had built kingdoms before Europe had cities. A people who had known poetry before they knew borders. A people whose only flaw was believing the lie that they were less. So no, I would not wait. I would not beg. I would not grovel before the ghosts of colonizers in well-pressed suits. And for that, they decided I had to go. But hear me, and hear me well. Truth does not die when you kill the truth-teller. A dream does not vanish when its dreamer is buried. You can shoot a body. You can smear a name. But you cannot kill a people who have awakened to their worth. I do not speak today to ask for sympathy. I speak because my voice is still free, and I will use it, even if it is the last time. There are forces even now, plotting, whispers in rooms where the curtains are drawn, guns polished, fingers twitch. I see it, I smell it, but I do not fear it. What I fear is silence. Silence from those who knew better, but said nothing. Silence from the ones who grew comfortable while the poor starved. Silence from the intellectuals who wrote essays in France, while their mothers fetched water from cracked wells. Silence from the soldiers who forgot that their loyalty should be to the people, not to power. They want you to believe that revolution is chaos, that to demand your dignity is to bring ruin. But what is ruin, if not the quiet decay of a people taught to obey forever? What is chaos, if not the peace of the grave disguised as order? I have seen their order. I have seen it in the emaciated faces of children sucking dust for supper. I have seen it in the villages where wells run dry while ministers sip bottled water flown in from Europe. I have seen it in the old man's eyes when he looks at the flag and wonders if it still means anything, or if it ever did. And I spit on that order. If revolution is fire, then let us burn the rot. If dignity is dangerous, then let us walk with danger. Do not weep for me if I fall. Do not mourn me like a statue. I do not want to be remembered with flowers and silence. Remember me with action. Remember me with rebellion in your spine and justice in your hands. Remember me when you say no, firmly, boldly, to those who would rather see you on your knees. I was not perfect. God knows I tried and failed and tried again. I made mistakes. But I did not betray. I did not forget who I was, or who you were. I did not drink from golden cups while my brothers thirsted in the streets. I did not fly across the world, begging for scraps with a smile. I did not sell my pen, or my uniform, or my soul. That is my only pride. Not the parades, not the cheers, not the titles, just that I stayed clean in a world that wanted me dirty. And now I feel it in the air. The stillness before a storm that does not ask permission. Perhaps tonight they will come. Perhaps the phone will ring and no one will answer. Perhaps the door will open and death will walk in wearing a familiar face. If it does, let it come. Let it find me standing. Let it find me with my boots on the ground and my heart still speaking. I will not run. I will not hide. Because what is a life worth if it is lived in fear? And what is death worth if it serves the dream? I have sat in rooms with men who smiled with their teeth but blinked like cowards. I have heard their promises polished like knives. I have been warned again and again to slow down, to make compromises, to play the game. But I was never here to play. I was here to end the game, to flip the board and break it in half, to scatter its pieces into the wind so that no other child would grow up thinking they were born to lose. We are not pawns. We are not numbers. We are not shadows behind barbed wire. We are a continent, a soul, a song that refuses to stop singing, no matter how many times it is choked. And that is why they tremble, because they know we are rising, not just in Burkina Faso, but in every village where women organize and youth speak and elders remember what pride used to taste like. This revolution, it is not mine. It was never mine. I only carried it for a time, like a torch passed from calloused hand to calloused hand. It belongs to you now, to the farmer who plants without a tractor, to the teacher who writes with broken chalk, to the market woman who barters with fire in her eyes. Take it, hold it high, and never, never let them convince you that you were born to serve. We are the ones we have waited for, not the UN, not the donors, not the speeches in Geneva, or the men in clean suits who cannot pronounce our names. United States, the barefoot builders, the nameless heroes, the people who refuse to disappear. And maybe that is why they must silence me, because I remind you of your power, because I speak the forbidden words, because I say aloud that the emperor has no clothes, that our masters are not gods, that the whip can be broken, that the chains were only real as long as we believed they were. You have to understand, truth is dangerous, but silence is deadlier. They will lie, you know, tomorrow, or next week, or in some dry history book written far from the red earth of our blood. They will lie. They will say I brought this on myself, that I was too radical, too young, too idealistic, that I should have known my place, that I broke something fragile, something called stability. But stability for whom? For the generals who dine while conscripts beg? For the merchants who raise the price of rice but lower the weight of the bag? For the foreign banks that lend us coins and collect our souls? If that is stability, then let it fall. Let it crash like glass under a revolutionary foot. I did not come here to keep their illusion alive. I came to shatter it, and they hated me for it. Do you know what it is to be hated by ghosts, by systems that have no face, only hunger? I have felt it. In every delay, every denial, every coded threat behind a diplomatic grin. I have felt it in the backroom phone calls, in the shifting eyes of those who once called me brother, in the sudden silence when I enter a room. But I would rather be hated for truth than loved for compromise. They call me a Marxist, the Pan-Africanist, a madman. Let them. The titles do not matter. What matters is this. I walked among my people and did not hide. I did not wear gold on my wrist while their children wore dust on their skin. I did not teach them to bow. I taught them to rise. And now I feel the hour pressing in, the weight of something inevitable. But still, I will not say goodbye. Not because I'm blind to danger, but because I know what lasts beyond it. If they strike me down, they will not hear a scream. Only silence. And then 1,000 voices in my place. Because this was never about me. It was about the woman who sold tomatoes at the roadside and still paid tax while the elite evaded justice. It was about the soldier who refused a bribe, even though his boots had holes and his children ate only once a day. It was about the student who asked, "Why not us? Why not now?" I carried their voices. That is all. A conductor for the music that was always there, buried under centuries of foreign boots and forgotten names. And now it plays again, louder than fear, louder than bullets. I have no mansion, no millions in a foreign account. I will not leave behind marble statues or oil paintings. I will leave behind a question, a mirror, a road, and that will be enough. Because from the seeds we planted, dignity, justice, solidarity, will come something no army can bury. From the wounds we healed with truth, a generation will rise with teeth of iron and hearts of flame. They will know who they are. They will know what we were denied. They will not ask permission. And when they speak, it will be with one voice. Never again will we be ruled by those who do not serve. Never again will we trade our future for their profit. Never again will we kneel. I speak now not to mourn, but to ignite, to call forth the spirit sleeping in every exploited soul, to remind the poor that they are not invisible, to tell the colonized mind that the chains are not on your hands anymore, they're in your head, and they can be broken. I do not dream of martyrdom. I dream of awakening, of young men who refuse to shoot their own for the benefit of a few, of young women who lead without apology or permission, of elders who see in our rebellion not disrespect, but resurrection. That is the Burkina Faso I saw with my eyes. That is the Africa I touched with my hands. Not perfect, but possible, not in some distant century. Now here, if we are willing to pay the price, if we are willing to lose comfort and gain clarity, do not weep for me. Weep for the ones who still kneel with full bellies and empty hearts. Weep for the ones who bought power and lost their soul. But for me, if I fall, plant me like a seed. Let me grow in every field where truth is buried. Let me rise through the cracks of your despair. Let my name be not a monument, but a matchstick. Strike it. Light the fire. Let them know that even in death, the dream did not die. Let them know Thomas Sankara walked this earth, and he left it unafraid. There will be a morning after, a moment when the dust has not yet settled, when silence stretches over Ouagadougou like a question with no answer. Some will look for me in the streets, in the corridors of the revolution, in the speeches not yet delivered. They will whisper, "Where is Sankara?" And I will not be there. But listen closer. You will hear me in the marching feet of school children, who now eat before they learn. In the pounding of hammers building shelters that belong to the people, not the state. In the fearless laughter of girls who know their bodies are not property, but power. I will not be in the newspapers, not the ones they print with trembling hands. I will not be on their television. They prefer silence. They fear what I say more than what I do, because what I say cannot be arrested. It cannot be buried with a body. It cannot be silenced with a gun. They forget that ideas are immune to bullets, that once a people believe they are free, no army can make them forget it. That is the curse they inherit. Those who pull the trigger, they win the moment but lose the century. My blood, if it is spilled, will mix with the soil and make the land remember. Burkina Faso is not a flag, it is a soul. And that soul remembers every whip, every lie, every theft hidden beneath the word civilization. They fed us chains and called it religion. They fed us loans and called it progress. They fed us fear and called it peace. But we have vomited their poison. We have broken their mirrors. We no longer see ourselves through their eyes. I told my comrades, he who feeds you controls you. So we chose to feed ourselves. They laughed. They said it was impossible, that we were too poor, too backward. But what they feared was not our poverty. It was our defiance, that a people could live with less and yet live with pride, that a nation could reject dependency and still find joy, that we could wear our cotton, eat our grain, walk our land, and call it enough. I chose a bicycle, not a Mercedes. I chose a wooden desk, not a palace. I chose to speak in our language, not theirs. Not because I am a saint, but because I am a son of this soil. And the soil does not forget who loves it. Now they circle. Their whispers grow sharper. Their fear tastes like iron. They will come for me. And still I write, I speak, I live. Not because I believe I will survive, but because I know the revolution will. If I fall, raise the flag higher. If I am silenced, speak louder. If I am erased, paint my face on the walls. Not as a savior, but as a warning. Not as a hero, but as proof that it is possible to live without selling your soul, to govern without stealing, to lead without kneeling. This is not a fantasy. This is not utopia. This is dignity. This is struggle. This is love in its most radical, most dangerous form. For I love you, my people, more than comfort, more than peace, more than safety. And so I will not apologize for the enemies I made. They were enemies of the hungry, enemies of the poor, enemies of women, of workers, of the soil itself. I did not meet them with smiles. I met them with fire. If I die tomorrow, let it be said that I did not bend, that I did not sell out, that I loved my people more than I loved my safety. Let it be said that I stood in front of the storm and spoke, even when the thunder cracked above me. Let it be said that Sankara lived, not as a hero, but as a mirror, a reflection of what we all could be, if only we had the courage to believe. Burkina Faso, I love you. Africa, I love you, and I am not afraid.